Hello, and welcome to Mysterios Divinos podcast. Today, we're diving into a story that might just change the way you see everything. It's a perspective that challenges what we think we know about our origins, arguing that our tiny planet isn't just a random rock floating in space, but something much, much older and far more important than we've been told.
It's the biggest question of all, isn't it? Where did all this come from? The stars, the planet, you and me. For as long as we've been able to think, we've been trying to answer it. And, the answers usually fall into two very different baskets.
On one hand, you've got the story science tells, the Big Bang, random evolution, natural processes over billions of years. On the other, you have a biblical account, a creation in Genesis, a plan, what's called intelligent design. For this explainer, we're going to explore the arguments from that second point of view, starting with the questions it poses to the first.
So the first challenge this perspective raises is actually about the rules of science itself. The argument is simple. For something to be scientifically proven, you have to be able to see it and repeat it in a lab. But the beginning of the universe? That was a one-time event. No one was there to watch, and we definitely can't do it again. So from this viewpoint, any story about the origin, including the Big Bang, has to stay a theory, not a proven fact.
This leads right into the logic of the Big Bang itself. The theory says everything we see exploded out of a single, tiny point. But the question asked here is, well, what lit the fuse? What made it go bang? The core idea is that you can't get something from nothing. An explosion that massive must have had an even more massive cause behind it. All right, let's shift from the cosmos to life right here on Earth. The whole idea of evolution is that life is on an upward journey, right? It starts simple and over millions of years gets more and more complex. It's a story of progress. But here's where this other perspective points to a fundamental law of the universe that seems to say the exact opposite.
It's called the second law of thermodynamics, and basically it says that everything in the universe is winding down. Things move from order to disorder. Stars burn out, things decay. The universe is constantly moving towards a state of chaos. So the contradiction they point to is this. If the entire universe is running down, how is it that life on Earth is the one thing that's supposedly winding up, getting more and more organized all by itself?
The next major challenge comes from a science that Darwin himself never could have dreamed of: genetics. The discovery of DNA in the 1950s was a total game changer, and the argument here is that what we learned about our own genetic code puts up the biggest roadblock of all to the theory of one animal evolving into a completely different one.
And I love this analogy they use. DNA isn't just a chemical. Think of it like a computer program, a microscopic, incredibly complex piece of software running inside every single one of your cells. It's the blueprint that has all the instructions for building and operating a living thing.
And this is what they call the genetic barrier. The software code for a sheep only knows how to make another sheep. You can't just get a few random mutations in the code for a dog and expect it to suddenly turn into the code for a cat. In this view, genetics creates hard limits. The code determines everything from your eye color right down to your biological gender, locked in by those XX and XY chromosomes. This code, they argue, prevents the kind of radical, species-to-species jumps that evolution requires.
Okay, so if this perspective sets aside the standard scientific story because of these issues, what's the alternative? What's the other story? This is where we shift from questioning a theory to unveiling a completely different narrative, one based on a very different kind of source.
Now, in this view, the Bible is seen as something more than just a book of faith or history. It's described as hyperdimensional. What does that mean? It means it comes from a being, God, who exists outside our familiar dimensions of space and time. So if you're outside of time, you can see the past, present, and future all at once. And that, they say, is how the Bible can talk about things thousands of years in the future as if they've already happened.
Now, check out this timeline. It's really interesting. It doesn't necessarily argue with science that the Earth is billions of years old. The big difference is that it says humanity is young. We've only been here for about 6,000 years. So, what was happening on this ancient Earth for all that time before us? According to this interpretation, it was inhabited by angels.
And this planet, this stage, wasn't an accident. It was designed, engineered with incredible precision. The source points to Earth's axial tilt, exactly 23.5 degrees. That specific number gives us our seasons and makes our planet habitable. The argument is that if it were off by just 1 degree, the world as we know it couldn't exist. It's presented as the signature of a grand designer. This verse from the book of Job is seen as a peek into that pre-human world.
When God was laying the foundations of the earth, who was watching? According to this interpretation, the sons of God here are the angels. They were already there, celebrating the creation of this very special planet, long before Adam and Eve ever took their first breath.
And all of this builds to the most important claim in this entire narrative, that our little blue marble, which seems so insignificant in the vastness of space, isn't insignificant at all. In this spiritual story, Earth is the center of everything. It's the nucleus of God's plan for the entire universe.
So why is Earth so important? Because it's the stage for a cosmic war, a conflict between the Creator, God, and his great adversary, Lucifer. And in this framework, all of human history, every empire, every war, every political struggle is just the physical manifestation of this spiritual battle playing out right here on our planet.
So why, from this perspective, has there been endless conflict over one city, Jerusalem? The spiritual reason given is that Jerusalem is prophesied to be the future location of God's throne on earth. Therefore, the adversary's number one goal is to control, disrupt, or destroy that city to stop that from ever happening.
And this is how this worldview looks at major historical events. Things like the Holocaust are seen not just as a result of political hatred, but as a direct spiritual attack designed to wipe out the Jewish people and derail a divine plan. Modern conflicts in the Middle East are viewed in the exact same light. Physical battles that are really just shadows of an invisible war for control of the most important piece of real estate in the universe.
And that brings us to the final, powerful question this perspective leaves us with. It reframes our entire existence, not as a cosmic accident, but as the main characters on the central stage of a cosmic drama. So the question is, if our world really is the center of a story this big, how does that change the way we see our lives, our history, and our future? If you like this video, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment on what you found most interesting. And don't forget to share it. Thanks for joining me.